Devil in the Family, which is about mommy vloggers or like a mommy vlogger.
Oh my God. So what did you see? Did you see that law that they passed in
Yeah,
California?
thank God. Thank God, dude. I think not to talk shit on
Wait,
all of
wait.
y'all,
What is the
but
law that they passed in California for the besties that are just listening to us?
I'm not sure what it's called, but I know it requires you to create it like a trust for your kids if they're in your videos. If you're like a vlogger and you're profiting off your kids too.
Mm-hmm. I
It
think if it's like
requires you
60% of the time.
yeah, to put money aside for them as well. And so a lot of families are moving to Tennessee supposedly for other reasons that they already wanted to move to Tennessee and blah 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 blah.
Damn.
But I don't know.
People, hey,
I don't know.
those taxes, man. They'll get you,
Yeah.
those California taxes will run you out of the
Yeah,
state every
apparently
time.
mold in a house that you don't even live in will run you out of the state.
What the
People are saying
fuck?
dumb shit, but this documentary is about I don't know if you guys saw the little boy in the Ring camera where he was like, "Can you do me a favor?" to this old man and he's like super super skinny and like you can see his bones. He has like duct tape around his hands. And um the old man opens the door and he's like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Can you take me to the nearest police?" Like this was in the news. This happened in 2023. Um and it
Oh.
was so it was a documentary about that family where it was this mom, she was like part of the Mormon community or whatever, religion, and she started vlogging her family and they started getting like really really huge, but in the back lines like the kids were just getting mistreated in a way.
Damn.
And so they got huge. They got like over 1 million subscribers. Like they were making all their money off of like the channel. And it was just like them like doing family shit. But she would post weird shit like, oh, um, I just hit puberty. Like her kids like really intimate stuff.
What?
And
No
her
way.
eldest son was like, he was like really cute and little, a little white boy in sports. And so they noticed that most of their attention, they got most of the views when they posted him. And he was like
Mm-hmm.
really silly and like funny and cute. And as he started getting older, he just didn't want
To be
to
in the
do it
videos,
anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, because he just wanted to like, be a kid and whatever. And in during the documentary, it shows like the full clips because they obviously got access to the entire videos. And there's like a scene where he's like just like kind of like zoned out and she's like, "Oh, like pretend to be happy. Like even if you're not happy, like fake it for the video." And she would just like manipulate them. She'd be like, "Oh, like why don't you want to help me? Like this and that." Or she would tell him like, "This is how we make our money." Like just like really,
Damn.
abusive.
That's
And
disgusting.
the little boy started acting up as he started growing and he got expelled from school. They like sent him to
Damn.
like rehab and stuff, but they also
Wow.
took away his room and he had to sleep in the living room in a beanbag chair for like 6 months.
What?
And so like they sent him to rehab. He comes back, he starts going to therapy with this woman who does kind of like life talks
Mm-hmm.
essentially, and she becomes his therapist and he starts to behave, he starts to do good and whatever. And then in one of the videos he casually mentions that they had taken away his room, and dude, they fucking like cancel the shit out of them because they start to see the pattern of like how she's treating these kids, and she ends up getting canceled. So she kind of switches her entire YouTube. I'm like very very much, by the
Yeah,
way,
high level overview
yeah, um she switches it to more
about her.
like parenting stuff, like how to
Mm-hmm.
be a parent. And so she starts becoming friends with this woman. Her name's Jody. And the mom, her name's Ruby. So they start becoming like really good friends. Jody is the therapist of the
Boy.
son.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts going to her talks and whatever, but essentially like they're like man hater talks. And not like we are not
Right.
man haters, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like we
yeah.
talk shit, but like
Justifiably so.
yeah, exactly. And this bitch was just kind of like everything is like the man's fault essentially.
Oh my God.
But Ruby's
I
husband
don't
was
disagree, by
also
the way.
honestly such a fucking like coward, dude. A
No.
coward because he was a dweeb and he said that like all these guys wanted Ruby and he got her. So essentially he would do anything to keep her. Like he just wanted to make her happy
Damn.
above everyone, like even above his
Damn.
kids. And so she forces him to start going to these like men talks that Jody has too. And then he
Mm-hmm.
kind of starts to lead them. But Jody, like, as their relationship starts getting closer and closer, she starts telling them that like she sees demons and that like they're haunting her in her house. So she moves in with the family. And at this time, the eldest daughter is leaving to college, and while Jody's in the house, she's having like, and they're like showing these videos of like her having an exorcism essentially. And like Ruby's helping her through it and whatever. And like Ruby starts to sleep in the room with Jody and all this weird shit just starts happening. And, but at this time, she's like abusing these kids. Like she like hits them.
And that girl Jody doesn't know?
Yeah, she knows. She encourages it. Like essentially once Jody comes into the picture, she like everything goes like hits the
Worse.
fucking fan. Yeah. And because she was the eldest son's therapist, he confides in her and he tells her that he's been like masturbating and like he's been kissing girls. And so she makes him tell his mom. And when he tells his mom, she's like, "You're the reason that Jody's been having exorcisms, why there's demons in the house. Like you need to leave and your dad needs to leave." So she kicks them both the fuck out. And the dad leaves. And as he's like saying bye to his children, she's like taking pictures of them and like smiling. And he says like in the interview, because it's the eldest son, the eldest daughter, and then the dad who are in the documentary, and then some of the police officers that were part of the crime scene. Because once the dad leaves, the abuse just like goes nuts to the two youngest.
Oh.
And dude, when they find them, they have rope burns that are tied up with duct tape, and they find a room where essentially it was like a pain room for them. Like it was like it was behind a safe. And they would like take the kids in there to like abuse them, and they lived in Utah, so they would make them stand in the hot sun. If they would move, she would poke them with like cactus. She would hose them down with water. She'd make them walk out into the desert. Like she just really, really started. And mind you, at this time, she's posting videos and like being a fucking dumb, weird bitch.
Wow.
And one of the little boys ends up escaping and goes to the neighbor's house, and that's how they get caught. And even when they get caught, at this point, Ruby hasn't talked to her husband in over a year because he's trying to become a better person so he can get back to his family. She calls him and she's like, "Oh, the police have taken our two youngest kids. They're possessed by demons. Like, who knows what kind of lies they're telling the police about us. Like, you need to go pick them up." And he like goes to the police station, and like the cops are like, "Oh, like, do you want to see these pictures? Like this and this and this is what happens." And the dad is like, "No, I don't want to see these pictures." He's like, "I thought they were just trying to like manipulate me." So he like is still trying. He's like, I made sure I didn't say anything to incriminate Ruby. And like, it isn't until he goes back to his house and he sees like, because they would leave the kids alone. So the house was a fucking disaster. And that's when he's like, "Oh, everything that they were telling me like just finally was adding up." And I'm like, bitch,
No, I'm sorry, that's false.
like you're a fucking coward. Like you're literally a fucking coward.
He
You
knew
left
the
your
entire
kids.
time and he just turned a blind eye.
Exactly. But he didn't get charged with anything.
Yeah, that's called white privilege.
It's a crazy documentary. I really, really recommend it. And I feel like it really I don't know, I hate seeing kids like be the main like source of a channel.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
I just think it's scary. It's just like, I mean, I understand. I do think that they are owed or entitled to some compensation if they're at least a channel largely dedicated to them or largely,
To the whole family.
yeah, the whole family, and they're a huge part of it. Like, I
Mhm.
definitely think that kids should be compensated because are robbing them of a little bit of their childhood if you're making sketches
Of
or
their
program
privacy. I
making.
mean, I just feel like as a kid, you don't really understand what's happening. Obviously, if there's a camera in your face, you're going to get used to having the camera in your face. That's kind of like how famous people try really
Mhm.
hard to protect their kids from the
Mhm.
cameras. And like, I think the dangers you put them in is worse. I don't know. I just think it's such a weird thing to.
Because I think maybe it's kind of more like reality TV, whereas famous people, it's like, well, the card will come with a package. Like you have kids and you're famous. It's different than like you're putting your kids on screen to be famous.
Yeah, and you're acting. I feel like at least with reality TV, like you get a little bit more authenticity. And because it's YouTube, because you're putting up this persona, at the end of the day, like you're trying to put a
Mm.
persona of like this is a perfect family.
So it's edited
So
still.
it's yeah, like a lot of it has to be faked to a certain
Yeah.
extent, I think.
Programmed, yeah. Yeah,
You know what I
it is so
mean?
felt, yeah.
If not fake, then powdered.
Yeah.
And I think that's really damaging, especially because so many people now have access to your life and you didn't even have a choice on it. Like you were just a little kid.
Hey, besties. We're so excited for our next chapter of IE and Besties with our new podcast network, SAZON Studios.
Make sure to check out all the great content from our sister shows like La Plática with Josh Leiva and Sebastián Robles and Suelta la Lengua with Itati Lopez and her mom, Doña Silvia.
Talk about hilarious duos.
Absolutely. We hope to see you soon and we hope you tune in.